Joining us is Abigail Boyd, New South Wales Greens MP, and James McGrath, LNP Senator. Good evening to you both. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Abigail, why should gas be banned in new developments?
Look, gas is expensive, it's bad for our health and it's bad for the environment. We know that gas appliances now in households are leading to increased rates of asthma, particularly cooking appliances, gas cooking, increased rates of asthma with children, other respiratory illnesses. We're even getting evidence now that headaches, fatigue, common sort of cold and flu symptoms are all being caused by gas appliances in our homes. Why would we set up an entire new generation of homeowners and renters and sentence them to bad health?
James, health impacts, the cost? What do you think?
I think headaches have been caused by people getting their power bills and seeing how expensive everything is. I think Australians have the right to choose what type of energy comes into their home, and government should not be telling Australians what they can put into their power sockets, whether it is coal. Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you. Whether it is coal or gas or renewables, whatever it is, let Australians choose. Let them make that decision. And the policy is also hypocritical, because what it's saying is that new builds can't have gas, but if I've got an existing home, I can put gas into the existing home. So gas is either really, really bad and no one should have it. It can't be this half-pregnant type policy that we're seeing here at the moment in Australia.
I don't know what kind of policy you're talking about, but the policy that that we would advocate for here is that new builds don't have new gas connections. If you want to argue that somehow people should be allowed to put new gas into existing homes, have you seen how expensive that would be? That's not something that the average person is doing. I'd love to know who these people are who are choosing their homes based on whether or not they have a gas connection in this day and age.
But what the government is saying is that if you're in a new build home, you can't have gas. But if you're in an existing home, you can have gas. That is an inconsistent policy position to take. And what it's also doing, it's forcing people, ironically, to actually go back to coal. Because let's look at Victoria. As we're going out tonight, where is the electricity coming from? 50% black coal, about 20% brown coal, a mixture of gas, no solar because the sun isn't shining, we don't have batteries. So what's happening is if you don't use gas, it means brown coal's going to be used.
What are you talking about?
Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said that brown coal is worse for the environment than gas. We should be able to use gas. We've got lots of it, so let's use it. Let Australians power their own homes and get that supply into the market.
This is nonsense. We know that if you change from gas to electricity today and you electrify your home, you're going to save at least $1,000, if not more, over the next 3 to 5 years. Gas is incredibly expensive, particularly on the East Coast because of all of the export. We have the gas companies with their hands firmly around the throats of the Liberal National Party and Labor to an extent, trying to push this unhealthy, really bad for the environment stuff into people's homes.
But what you're saying is coal. Let's use coal. So where the Greens are coming from is we can't use gas, then we can't use coal, we don't have batteries for solar, so if the wind doesn't blow, where is your power going to come from?
I don't think you understand
and if you're going to limit
how the grid
supply
works.
of power, that means the market forces intervene. Okay. That means your bills are going to get even higher and higher.
Renewables coming through the same electricity as we get from coal. That's an absurd proposition.
Let's get some feedback now. Sandra in the front row, where do you sit on this argument?
We have to have gas. You can't choose what people... If people get sick because they've got a gas stove, maybe they will turn it off and not use it. You can't... The government controls what we eat, where we drive, what we drive, and now they want to control our health as well. You can't advocate for people because someone's getting a headache. Oh, no, you can't have a gas stove, for God's sake.
John?
Well, I've got gas and I'm happy to have gas. And I think that what you're saying is wrong. I think the electricity will go way, way higher. I use gas in a bottle. It costs me $120 and I use 3 bottles a year. Now, my electricity bill is dearer than the gas. Yeah. And the only headache I get is probably from my wife.
I mean, hopefully she's not watching this one tonight. Peter, you've got your hand up.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'd have to question this stuff about the health effects. We've been using gas in our homes for 50 and 60 years in Victoria, and I think the data which suggests people are getting sick or having any problems with gas is highly dubious. But I think the issue is we're asking the wrong question. If we're going to have gas policies or policies in Australia which discourage exploration and production of gas, which is what's happening in Victoria and New South Wales, we're going to run out of gas and we're going to have to import gas, which will be more expensive. So on one hand, there's no point in encouraging people to use gas if we're not going to explore for it and produce it. Look at Santos and Narrabri. They've had more than 2 TCF of gas there, and a huge quantity for Sydney, which has been sitting there for 12 years, going through approval after approval after approval.
Right.
And I'm sorry, it's just
Abigail,
nonsense.
what's your response?
The amount of gas that we export that is not available for domestic use, that is what's pushing up the gas prices. That is what is now driving someone like Santos, that company, to go in and to destroy that farmland on the Liverpool Plains. It's complete nonsense. This is
destroying farmland when you're putting acres and acres of solar panels around. Coal seam gas does not destroy farmland. That's nonsense.
Of course it does.
James, I mean, what do you think about this argument?
Well, I'm on the side of Australians who want to have freedom and choice to decide whether they use what type of electricity comes into the house. If they want to use gas, people should be able to use gas. It is simple as that. Governments should not be bossing people around. They should be getting out of people's lives.
And Abigail, we look at Victoria. You mentioned Victoria. The state would have to take 200 homes a day off gas every day until 2045 to achieve net zero. Do you think that's a realistic target, 200 homes a day off gas?
It's extraordinary when you look at the price of how much it costs to get off of gas. This is the problem, to retrofit, to get off of gas. But yes, we have a massive problem trying to get off of gas, and yet then we have new builds installing new gas. This is nonsense. Of course we need to ban the installation of gas into new builds. And the idea that we somehow are denying choice, this isn't the choice of the people living in these homes. This is the choice of the landlords and the property developers. And we know that most renters that are going into new builds are then lumped with whatever they've got and unable to complain.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's an interesting one. I know a lot of local councils have already gone in this direction. But look, you've both had your say. Let's call on the jury now. You have 10 seconds to deliberate. Is now the time to ban gas in newly built homes?
Yes.
Okay, time is up. What is the jury's verdict? All of you say no, except one yes. So you don't believe that gas should be banned for new builds, except for you, Yvonne. Why have you voted yes?
I think the scientific evidence is just beginning to get more and more overwhelming, especially for paediatric asthma. And that's one of the big reasons why, California and other countries are looking into trying to phase out gas. So I think it's less about greenhouse gases, what the cost is. It's just the overwhelming study after study that's finding, especially with poor ventilation, that's contributing to childhood asthma.
Yeah, which is what Abigail said there. Sarah, you also voted no. Why?
Well, again, I think people should have choice. At the end of the day, if there are pre-existing health conditions or if you're, exposed to that, then you should have the choice not to, obviously, if you don't want to install the gas. But, yeah, like in Australia, we've gone from the 4th cheapest electricity to now the 10th in the world, ever since we've been on this path to net zero. So you can't argue that this is going to make it cheaper for everyone, that's... Yeah. We're yet to see that, so...
Yeah. George, up the back, you said no as well.
Absolutely. I am sick and tired of governments telling us how we can live. We are here for a short time and therefore they should allow us to have our choice. Gas is by far the most efficient way of cooking and the most preferred way of cooking. Ask anybody who cooks. And over the next 25 years, gas has developed to such a point that gas stoves will be changed over to non-CO2 producing gas. So for heaven's sake, leave us alone and give us our choice and let us have our way. Yeah. And let's have our choice in being able to use gas.
Abigail, leave us alone, give us a choice.
I'm sorry. Look, it's not... We don't have this argument when we're talking about all of the other issues that the government gets involved in when it comes to health.
Yeah.
It's a really obvious one, and of course we shouldn't be having gas in new homes.
Well, the debate's already started, so I'm sure it's going to keep going. We're firing up. We're firing it right up. Abigail Boyle and James McGrath, thanks for joining us on the panel this evening.